the density altitude is. At sea level on a cold day, we put a lot of fuel into the motor. Get up to Salt Lake City on a hot day and we have to take a lot of fuel away from them because there's just not as much air, not as much oxygen. The computer also tells us, it's programmed into it, what jet setting we should use. So in real good air, when this is going to be pretty good air here tonight, we'd probably use a pretty small jet. Get up to, in a high elevation, we would use a big one, which would return a lot more fuel, so less would go through the engine.
So what we're trying to do is to get the right jetting or mixture of fuel and air. That's what we're talking about right here.
That's exactly right, Army. If we get too much fuel for the amount of air, the engine doesn't make its maximum power. If we get it too lean, if we get not enough fuel for the air, then it causes detonation and sometimes it does bad things to the engine.
Well, I'll tell you, for all you fans out there that thought all it took to be a success was a big motor and a nice-looking truck, boy, we just found out it's different. This is a professional sport these guys are in. Wayne Roush is off and rolling.
Roush making some good ground speed. Currently, we have a Chrysler-powered vehicle in the lead. Roush also Chrysler-powered with a little red truck out of Ohio. A good run, Richard.
273.67 feet for Wayne Roush's first vehicle. That is John Heilman. He's scheduled to come out next, Army, but it doesn't look like he's going to make it to the line.
Heilman is making some major changes in his drivetrain. I believe clutch is the problem right now. You notice his son working. He's going to have to drop in the field, and that should bring the gentleman that just ran out again. Keep in mind, your pulling order is determined by the luck of a draw. Heilman cannot come in his spot, so Roush comes back with the 23 Ford.
And this, of course, is the yellow Model T. One thing about Wayne Roush, he was recently named the 1988 TNT National Puller of the Year.
You know, that award is voted on by the pullers, the competitors that go against him. He's a class individual, loves the Chrysler horsepower. This one goes in the fiberglass replica of a 23 Ford. Look at the run. He's out there at a 292, Richard.
Just barely missed taking over the lead, a little over 292 feet. So Mark Hare and Daniels is our leader. We'll be back with more Power Tracks in a moment. Modified two-wheel drive competition continues. Richard Wisnuts out of Union Grove, Alabama. He's got the hot shot down and rolling.
Youngster out of Dixie. A little bit light on the nose. Now it settles back down on him. Uses a Chevrolet for horsepower. Right side of the track. Richard not going to be the run this kid was looking for.
Richard only gets 276.47 feet. So Mark Hare out of Springfield, Ohio, keeps the lead as 31,000 plus, having a great time in the Hoosierdome tonight. That brings to the line Art Hathaway and Honkin' Donkey. Boy, this is a truck, Army, you're going to have to keep your eye on in the winter circuit.
You know, this truck, the chassis on it is an interesting story. Currently, the chassis, or the frame that these trucks run on, the lead chassis is a Humco chassis. This is another Humco chassis. We've got a chassis war going on between Humco and Tim Engler as to which frame is the best. And right now, the Hoosierdome play, the Humco chassis are putting that horsepower to super bite.
279.65 feet for Art Hathaway. We're going to go down and talk to him now.
Coming down the track, things seemed sort of inconsistent. We kept coming up and down a lot. Couldn't hold the front end level there, so could have used a little bit more on the front end probably. Could have helped.
Well, we're currently watching in the number 3 spot. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like John Heilman has got his clutch problem solved. He's coming into the line now in his 1987 Thunderbird. And, of course, John is out of Rockford, Ohio.
Making Thunderbird horsepower out of the Buckeye State. Heilman trying to come up with a new combination. I don't know if this is going to be the way to go. Heilman's one of the old pros, but I believe he missed it. The front end went sky. The starting line wasn't what he normally was used to. We'll check with him and find out, Richard.
A little over 258 feet for John Heilman.
You actually drew early in the field, but you were not able to make the call at that time. First of all, what happened? You could not make the call. And secondly, did that affect the pulling of the vehicle?
Yes, I feel it affected the pulling. We had a mechanical problem with the clutch. I just went from a Hayes clutch to a Crowler glide. I didn't get enough clearance in the throw-out bearing, and it wasn't engaged. And we spent so much time trying to get everything right down there, we couldn't watch the track. I think it took my concentration off the run, and I think I made a bad hole shot. You can't have a problem like that right before you hook and expect to have a perfect run. Now, I tried to salvage a good run. I think the track is deteriorating too. We just lost the opportunity, a good shot.
You know, there's a lot of Hoosiers and a lot of Buckeyes in the field tonight, but let's not forget the Bluegrass Boys of Kentucky. Here's one of their best, Lige McLean and Rowdy. Lige out of DeMossville, Kentucky.
He and his lovely wife, Carol, they've been professional pullers for about 5 years. He's definitely making a name for himself. Richard, a little bit of sparks starting to come out from beneath the truck from our viewpoint. Can you see it from your angle?
A lot of sparks flying out from the Rowdy machine now. He shuts down at 286.09 feet for Lige McLean from Kentucky. Let's go trackside with Army.
It looked like your weight was set almost perfect, but at the very end of the run, are you aware a tremendous amount of sparks were coming out from underneath the vehicle?
I think my chassis is flexing a lot and it's causing the drive line to hit the universal, but I can straighten that out.
And coming out next, Ken Lamont out of Crossville, Illinois. And Army, ever since Kenny picked up the Plano Toolbox Company as a sponsor, this Midnight Express machine has been on a tear.
He's been on a tear, but I tell you, he gives a lot of credit to the fine lubricant provided to him by the Quaker State oil people. Look at this, ground speed looking good. Draws late in the field, laying that horsepower to the track, Richard. He might just bump up into that lead. It's going to be tight.
Oh, missed it by a tenth of a foot. 293.63 feet for Ken Lamont. Let's go trackside.
The track is getting awful rough right now. Hare had a beautiful run. Mark laid down a good pass. He did a good job of driving the track. If you notice, he's the only one so far that didn't do any bouncing. The farther we go, the more bounce there is in that track, which that's just part of numbers. That's part of the game.
Well, the luck of the draw, number one, he was on a smooth track to start with.
Oh, yeah, he sure was. And in credit to Mark, I wouldn't have traded with him for anything because that number one spot is a booger.
Well, it must be a tough spot to be in, but Ken Lamont gave it his all. And Army, can you sing a few bars of my old Kentucky home? Because when you think of Kentucky and you think of pulling, you got to think of this guy, Jim Lyons out of Louisville and Stitches.
Lyons is a history book in his own. Came to the sport through drag racing where he won national championships. An engine builder. Now he's teamed up with Alfred Turner, Milton Bowles with the Stitches Company. Carry the black colors for GMC, and believe me, everybody knows Lyons can come and get you. Even though he draws at the bottom of the field, look at the ground speed that GMC generates, Richard. We might have a new leader on the final shot.
Not only a new leader, but this may be the winner. It is Jim Lyons, the last truck in the field, 299.19 feet. Jim Lyons out of Louisville, Kentucky has knocked off Mark Hare out of Springfield, Ohio, and the last pull of the day as we go trackside.
Well, Richard, Jim Lyons did it the hard way, drew at the very bottom of the field, but that didn't seem to slow you down a bit. You were making a tremendous amount of horsepower. The weight looked perfect. That was just an excellent run, Jim.
It really was, Army. I thought I waited too long, but we was testing a bunch of new cylinder heads, and it worked out great. We got a new blower on it, a new set of heads, and I wanted to find out what it did, so it done super. I mean, it done what it's supposed to do, and I waited too long. I drove a little bit bad, too.
Well, Lyons no stranger to the winner's circle. He's an old drag racer, world champion in that category, but he's going after the national championship in 1989, and believe me, we're going to keep a close eye on this GMC. He'll be back in black out of the bluegrass, Mr. Jim Lyons.
In fifth place, Wayne Roush took fourth. Third went to Ken Lamont. Second to Mark Hare. And the winner tonight, Jim Lyons out of Louisville, Kentucky. And don't go away when Power Tracks comes back. We've got the rugged 4-engine modified tractors heading down the Hoosierdome track. Trucks and move into the real monsters. 7,200-pound modified tractors. First out tonight, Army, Bill Patterson and Sassy Massey out of Richfield Springs, New York.
You know, it's a long way from New York to the Hoosierdome. This man would not be here with the Brian Knox prepared vehicle if he didn't think he could put a wind down. What horsepower, Richard? You can feel the building shaking. The 160-mile-an-hour ground speed. Sassy is off and running.
Bill Patterson closing it out. 283.26 feet. He has established the distance to beat here in the Hoosierdome with some 31,000 fans looking on and waiting for another legend in the sport. Think of pulling and tractors, you gotta think of David Banner.
Dave Banner, part of the Banner brothers out in the state of Indiana, relies on the awesome Chevrolet to make the horsepower. Mr. Chevy, the name of the tractor. Let's see what he can do. We talked earlier about the home state pressure. Banner wants to do good, and look at this run.
Pretty good run, but not quite enough to take over first. Mr. Chevy at 279.23 feet. And coming out next, it's the 1988 TNT points champion. That is Pat Friels out of Island, Kentucky. And Dollar Devil.
Richard, we just noticed something. As Friels getting ready to make his shot, he does have 4 engines, but the front engine is not running. I don't know if he's aware of that or not. Really, what we're going to be watching is a 3-engine run. I don't know if he's aware he has a dead engine on the front.
Pat Friels handicapped, and it shows in his pulling distance, 256-plus feet. Let's go find out what the problem was with Army.
We're running with 1 motor dead. I felt real good about the pull. We substituted some gear, and I felt like we done best we could. I'm real happy with the run for 3 motors.
So where everybody else is running a 4-motor combination, your 4th motor was just there for weight, to make the weight break. It was not you working at all?
Yes, that's right, Army. We come up here with 4 intention to run them like everybody else, but when we cranked the motor to seat and warm them, we broke the crankshaft in the front motor. We removed the motor, undone the coupler, and moved all the starting apparatus to this engine over here. We made do when we had to, and I feel good about the run, even with 3 motors.
Well, give Pat Friels credit. Broken crankshaft and all, pretty good distance, as we get ready next for Fred Freeman out of Wadesville, Indiana, and Mean Mistreater.
Fast Freddie Freeman out of Southern Indiana. Keep an eye on that right hand. He'll come after you. That is what he's known for. Right hand, full throttle, right off the starting line. Again, relying on Chevrolet for horsepower. Engler chassis, the weight looks good. Ground speed seems to be there, Richard.
Fred Freeman, 279.72 feet, so Phil Patterson remains our leader in the Sassy Massey machine. That is what, John Heilman there, isn't it, Army?
Heilman's lighting up the sled. The orange cone is a lineup marker for the sled operator, Ron Hickson. He'll back up. Heilman seems to be really worried about this track surface this evening, Richard.
All right, so John Heilman will be our next scheduled puller out there, but right now it's time for the Redman TNT question of the week. And today's question of the week about the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series comes from Matt Hirons of Bradenton, Florida. And Matt wants to know where TNT gets all the clay they use for their indoor pulling events. Well, Matt, it would be pretty fair to say that TNT owns real estate in more cities across the country than most companies. And for most of its indoor pulling events, TNT will either store the clay under or around the buildings that they're going to be pulling in, moving it in and out on the day of the event. Now, TNT can't use just any old kind of dirt. As a matter of fact, it has to be more of a clay substance, something that can be hardened and then packed down into the track. I guess you might say that TNT Motorsports is dirt rich. And if you have a question of the week about the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series, you can send it to TNT Motorsports, 5515 Poplar Park Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, 40228. And if we use one of your questions on a future ESPN broadcast, we'll send you absolutely free a TNT Motorsports Racing hat. We are back for competition, and this is John Heilman, Ohio Gold. Now, Army, he was our test puller tonight, but they had to reset the sled, didn't they?
He was the test puller. He pulled first. He made a full pull. He knows what it's going to take to get out of the track. But, yes, they added about 4,000 pounds of weight to that sled. And let's see what it's going to do to him. A few minutes ago, 300 feet was no problem. But right now, he is working, trying to muscle that sled out the other end of the Hoosierdome, Richard.
And he's done it. Forget the numbers on the screen. John Heilman has gone 291.16 feet. John Heilman, our new leader.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Heilman is doing it the hard way. John, you just went to that #1 spot, but a lot of people were not aware of what went on. You pulled first. You didn't have the option. You had to come back and pull again. You had to go outside. The weather is bad out there. Your crew's been working feverishly to get you back. A beautiful run.
Oh, that's a good crew. About made me a nervous wreck waiting on it down there. The tractor's wet. The pedals were wet. I was afraid my foot would slip off the pedal. I didn't show no mercy. We got the rumor is we have a new sponsor for 89. I want to show them how we're going to run.
Well, Heilman summed it up. Showed no mercy. He's #1. Let's see if he can stay there, Richard.
Well, Army, all he's got to do is hold off 3 more guys. The Fox, Master of Disaster, and the Virginia Farmer. They're coming up next on Power Tracks on ESPN. Final 3 competitors. One of these guys, Army, has already been out here once tonight. It is David Banter and the Mr. Chevy earlier. Now he's bringing back the Fox machine.
Bringing back the Fox, Richard, but I want you to notice something. Banner has gone to the left side of the track all night long. Everybody's been working middle to the right. Banner works the left side, running down the hash mark. Chevrolet's open up. The butterflies are wide open. He's coming after a
something in his earlier pull, as we'll find out.
What can I say? The run looked super. You were working the left side of the track. You're the first person to do that. Did that help you?
I feel like it did. Everybody was running the right side. I even run it with my other tractor, and it was getting quite soft over there. And I thought I'd take the chance of moving it over, and I think it's going to pay off.
Mike Piper followed you in the lineup. Do you think he might be able to put you away, or can you hold on to win this thing in the Hoosierdome?
Well, they've got a new driver that's never driven it before. He's a good driver, you know. Freddie's driving it because of the weight problem that Pat had, Mike had, but it's an awful pressure on him making one run on a new tractor, you know. So the tractor's definitely capable of doing it, but it's got to be done.
Well, what Dave Banner is talking about is the Master Disaster Machine, and Mike Piper, the normal driver. There's a maximum allowable weight in this sport, in this division, and Mike didn't quite make it, so he asked Fred Freeman, who weighs a little bit less than Mike does, to get behind the wheel, and it's a tough situation, Army.
A lot of pressure on Freeman. I'm anxious to see how he's going to drive this Aries engine vehicle compared to a Chevrolet. Richard, he drives it the same way, full boogaloo, as hard as it'll go, and he makes a good run for the first time out.
You better believe it. He shuts it down, 283.68 feet. A darn good run, considering the first time he's ever sat in that seat. Now it's time for Big John Carlton out of Little Plymouth, Virginia. This is our final competitor of the night, and it's the Virginia Farmer.
Carlton going after Banner, but Richard, I believe he's having a little bit of problem. If you keep an eye on the front engine,
the blower belt, isn't it, Army?
Blower belt let go on the front engine, but also he lost another belt on the other engine, Richard. We'll check it on a replay. Keeping an eye on that front engine, you notice raw fuel starting to come out of it. Right now, the blower belt has started to disintegrate. At this time, the right engine blower belt disintegrates. You'll notice raw fuel coming out. The Virginia Farmer loses 2 complete engines on the run. So, Richard, it looks like a home state boy. Dave Banner will take the win as the top 5 comes up on the screen.
So really it was a story of 2 crafty old veterans tonight winning their respective division championships. Jim Lyons out of Louisville, Kentucky, taking the 2-wheel drive division, and then the home state guy right here from Indiana, David Banner, winning the 7,200-pound.
Light wind and sunshine over the